I drive a car. It's called a Suzuki Every. It's a pretty simple car. I made sure that there's like no way that anyone could hack me. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a big computer whiz or anything like that. So the only electronic things I got, like I don't even have a clock in it, are the windows. The gearbox is manual. It's a 4-speed basically. It's got 5 gears, but the first one you just don't use. And I was thinking, a lot of people are talking about how they love their Fujifilm cameras because it's direct manual control. And some people even bring up manual gearboxes on cars. But I think there's a problem. I actually think that the way Fujifilm do direct and manual controls is more like an automatic. I'll tell you why. When you downshift, say to gear 3 in like my wife's automatic car, you just pop the drive just like that and it goes down. If you want to shift up, go up. And that's it. It just changes gears like that. With a manual car, there is actually some sort of like safety to make sure you're not actually going from one gear into the next. And that thing is called the clutch. So a clutch and a gearbox and the moving of your hand is kind of like using a mode dial on like a Leica SL or a Canon or a Nikon, where you're hitting the mode dial and you're switching over to something else, or you're going to PASM and then you're going into the different settings. That's more manual than the quote-unquote manual controls of a Fujifilm. And why I'm bringing this up is because the X-T4, it's removing the direct controls for metering, which I'm really happy about. That thing always changed on my X-T3, which, filming this bad boy here, and every other Fujifilm camera I've ever owned. So this is cool because you're not going to have to worry about ripping your camera out of your bag and then suddenly your metering's changed. It appears, however, unfortunately, that the drive controls are still on that easily rotatable knob. I pull out my camera from the bag all the time and it's always going into like advanced or panorama or something like that, and I'm taking a shot and so why is it so dark? And then okay, yeah. So that sort of thing, it's an automatic transmission control where there's no safety. You're just hitting some like button or whatever and it's changing. So that's not direct manual. That's like direct automatic. One thing that I've really disliked about the X-T3 and other, well, the GFX as well, XH1 before it, is that the cards in them are cascaded. So if, I talked a long time about this on the Leica SLs and the XH1s and all those reviews, and people are like, why are you just got to stop wearing gloves and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I am Canadian. Before that was in Sweden. I go to winters, even here in Japan when it's just raining, if it's like 3 degrees, it's cold and it's good to have gloves on. But even if you don't have gloves, using just a regular like metrosexual finger like this and hitting the back card, if you got 2 cards on slots, is really hard. It's easier to take out the front card and then hit the back one, and that's fine. But if you're trying to just get one or the other, it's really tough because they're just right behind each other, and unless you have baby fingers, you're going to hit both. So what have Fujifilm done in the X-T4? They've put them in parallel like the Leica SL. And I'm so glad it's finally coming to Fujifilm. And I hope that means that the next XH2 or the X-T5 or any camera that's coming after this that has the real estate in the body will do that, because you just go pop, pop instead of I know someone's going to be like, oh man, you don't need that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In camera conspiracies, he talks about all the problems that are realistic about all these sorts of cameras. But I bet he's not going to talk about that. I bet you old Futaka Lounge is going to get him for that. Every Fujifilm camera that I've ever used until this point, you can take your battery, which is a perfect rectangle block, and you can put it 4 different ways into the camera. Now, only will lock one way, but you can put it 4 different ways and even shut, mostly, the battery door. There's no physical indication except for a tiny little notch in the corner. Again, if your hands are cold, or if you're wearing gloves, or if you're in the dark, it's really hard to tell which way is up, which way is down, which way is forward, which way is back. The new one has got humps, like McDonald's logos like that, and it's flat in the bottom. Now, it looks like the battery compartment doesn't also have the humps in it, so who knows if it will still go in 4 different ways, or if it's smarter like a Canon and only go in 2 different ways, or not even that, because there's some sort of like slight lock that's built into the battery and then built into the body itself so that it jams. If it's a case that the Fujifilm actually has a lock there and there's only one way to put the battery in, doesn't matter the shape of the battery compartment, very good Fujifilm. You guys have finally, and I say finally because I think you've mainly been listening to your biggest fans until this moment, you've finally been listening to people that actually use, like, and make money from your cameras but have serious problems because you have been ignoring the small things that make handling of a body so much better. Better battery that goes in one way, cards that you can press one up and down without having to press both at the same time, or remove both in order to get one out, that's foolproof for that method even if you have gloves on. And of course, getting rid of some of those dials that twist and shape by themselves. Again, if you've got gloves on, you're not even going to be able to change a single setting on them to the one you want, despite the fact that they turn by themselves almost automatically. So I'm really, really stoked about this. There's a couple things I'm actually upset about. It looks like the grip, while it's bigger, whatever, is still the same sort of grip, extension battery grip as the X-T3s, and that is you put it on the camera and the vertical post here that's supposed to get you more purchase on it is plastic. That means that when you're doing a lot of gripping this way, it's not that boring of a video, that it's gonna shift. So it's not solid like it would be on like a DSLR or even the XH1 because you're grabbing the piece of metal that's actually part of the camera. No, it's separate and it's not gonna be strong and it's gonna shift. And I gotta say, it looks good on paper when you buy it, and I've got one upstairs. It feels all right, but then you put it in your hand, and part of the problem with X-T3 is you can grip it this way, but there's nothing that holds the camera onto your fingers from slipping down. All of it comes with you laterally squeezing on it because there's no lip, there's no other sort of edges that hold the camera onto anything. All it is you gripping that thing. So I actually find that the X-T3 is less secure in the hand with the battery grip. Now, if you turn it into portrait ways, it's actually better, and that is because there's a lip there, and Fujifilm know this. They designed it into the grip so that when you go in portrait, it's more secure. But the camera without that, or if you've got the grip on and you're holding it landscape, is completely the opposite. So I feel that X-T3 and the X-T4 is kind of a bad platform to put the best technology for action, for videography, everything else into a camera, because it isn't itself perfectly ergonomically sound, or mostly like the XH1 was, and it's not as secure in the hand, which is a real shame. But other than that, like I said, X-T4 is making some big improvements, and I'm looking forward to trying it Yodobashi or whatever. And I'm looking forward to getting some feedback from people that own the camera and not from the fanboys that are just doing like, money grubbing stuff. So they're not being honest, or even if they're being honest, they're just too much fanboys. So we're gonna find out in the next couple of years if the X-T4 is actually better. Because remember, X-T3 came out and people are like, it's as good as the A7 III for tracking and for autofocus. And some people said it's as good as the A9 or almost as good. And we know that it's nowhere near the A7 III for eye focus, face focus, and just stickiness of tracking. In fact, it's slower in a lot of cases to even get the initial track. If you guys want to support me, buy a hat, 20 bucks, shipped wherever you are. I write it, serial number, all that. Other thing you do, hit up my Patreon. I've got some good photographs this week that are actually from earlier videos. However, they were not published then, and they're for explanation purposes for things I'm saying in this video. I think that they're pretty damn good. You get 4K composite, and 1080p. If you're a patron, $2 or $4. See you guys later. Thank you very much.